This video will combine all my research so far on Rome and the Vatican. Colosseum even had mock war games with ships. Fibonacci sequence or a serpent. The Bible mentions that the beast will rise from the sea. Could that be the Holy See? It also talks of the dragon that gives it its power and authority. Vatican means divining serpent. Apep Apophis, ancient Egyptian demon of chaos. Right guys, I found this in an old video. A lot of you have seen it before, and we know the Vatican is known as a divine serpent. Well, one of the most famous serpents of Egypt and the gods was Apophis, but Apophis went by another name, and it went by Apep. Now let's anagram that. Now we have Apep, Appe, or Pape. Now what's funny is Pape means father, so you can quite see where I'm coming from here. The Pope, and I'm going to show you a little clip coming up, the Pope is known as the Father. And the Father is an anagram, Pape, for Apep the serpent. No coincidences anymore, that's what everyone keeps telling me. So guys, we have Apep, the anagram of that is Pape, which means Father. The Pope is known as the Father, and here we have it. The word Pope derives from the Greek, and I can't pronounce that for obvious reasons, meaning father. In the early centuries of Christianity, this title was applied, especially in the East, to all bishops and other senior clergy, and later became reserved in the West to the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, the Pontiff, a reservation made official only in the 11th century. Now guys, you've watched enough of my stuff to know who the first Pope was, and we know that was Janus, and we know Janus's favourite number is 11. Are you telling me they reserved that title only in the 11th century, his number, as a ritual? I've just blown away, because you can see it quite clearly on the screen, and Janus's other name is Janus Pater, means Janus father. There we go guys, it's even named after him. Like Apep, Janus is known as chaos. This is St. Peter, Pater, Father Square. And here you go, you have a chaos symbol, and it just fits perfectly into it, just alluding to the fact it's one and the same. Ye shall make no idols, nor graven image. This is Pachamama, and if humanity mistreated the land, the Incas basically described her as a dragon beneath their mountains that would shake, causing earthquakes as a reminder to honour her. And this is in the Vatican Gardens, by the way. That's why I'm showing it to you. Neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land. Or to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God. The reason I'm showing this is because they're bowing down to what they perceive as a false idol in the Vatican Gardens. In December 1495, the Tiber River flooded the city of Rome. And when the water finally receded, a rumour began to circulate that a grotesque monstrosity had been discovered, in the muddy waters, what was left. And the monster that they found was labelled, and it later become to be known as the Papal Ass. And here's just a depiction now. Crazy, isn't it? And this is just what was found. Whether it's true or not, I just don't know. But because I'm talking about the serpent, I just found it uncannily that they named it the Papal Ass. Since the time of the Protestant Reformation, they claim Revelation 13:18 refers to the Pope as the enemy of the true faith. His title, they say, is Vicarius Filii Dei, or Deo, Vicar, the Son of God. And by using the value of the Roman numerals, the sum of those letters in that title equate to 666. And you can see an example just on your screen now of the letters Roman numerals equating to numbers, and it basically equates to 666. So that is what the Protestants and the Adventists equate to, saying basically his title relates to the mark of the beast. The Catholic Church deny these claims. They state that Vicarius Filii Deo is not the Pope's title. It is never used in any official church document. His title is Vicar of Christ, Vicarius Christi. The church go on to say, this false identification of the beast in Revelation 13:18 with the Pope has often been made in Seventh-day Adventist literature. The church state if they use the same numbering scheme for founder of the Adventists, Ellen Gould White, that it would basically equate to 666 too. So I've talked about the serpent already today and just mentioned Revelation. Is this a coincidence about Revelation? And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Revelation 12:17. And as you can see, 12:17 adds to 11, Janus's number. Are they one and the same, or is it just a coincidence? I'll leave that up for you guys. So, a mention of a dragon, I put into gematria. Janus is to dragon. We got 1, 3, 2, 5. 1 add 3, add 2, add 5 equals, you got it, 11. Vicarius Filii Deo, or Dei. Again, 1, 1, 6, 3. All adds up to 11. So it was just intriguing me, this, and obviously I've put in Janus is the beast, got 173, which equates to 11 again. So as you can see, the names that they're using in the last clip were obviously the serpent, dragon, and Janus, and the beast is all of them. All equates to his number 11. And also before that, I mentioned Janus Pater, Janus the father. Even that equates to 11. So come on guys, whatever you think, I just think there's too much coincidence now to ignore this. So, water is life, and it's integral to a town's survival, a city's survival. No different now than it is in antiquity. Now, what do you think I'm going to say about aqueducts? Well, you know I've just started. So the capital in Rome alone had 11 aqueduct systems supplying fresh water from sources as far as 92 kilometres away. Even they mentioned the 92. That 9 and 2 equates to 11. So there's 11 aqueducts and a source from up to 11 away, 92 kilometres away. It can't be a coincidence, but it is intriguing to see and find all these 11s that we're finding today. The Lateran Treaty was an agreement signed by the Vatican and then King of Italy, King Victor Emmanuel III. The treaty recognised the Vatican City as an independent state under the sovereignty of the Holy See. Vatican's 100th birthday is in 2029, and that's when I believe the next big thing will happen. Mussolini, the king's representative, signed on, yeah, you guessed it, the 11th. Just a coincidence, that, guys. The date was the 11th of February 1929. The Pope was Pius the 11th. Another 11. Just a coincidence. And we'll round this bit up with, yep, the Lateran Treaty in Gematria adds to 11. 1046, 1 add 4, add 6 equals 11. So the Lateran Treaty equates to 11. That's Janus' number. It was signed by the king, who had 11 in his title. It was signed by the Pope, who had 11 in his title. And people were screaming at screen, don't say it, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Right, guys. Have you ever heard of the Second Vatican Council? Me neither. So we're not alone. The Second Ecumenical Council of the Vatican, commonly known as the Second Vatican Council or Vatican II, looks like 11, doesn't it? It was set up to complete unfinished tasks of the Vatican First Council and ecumenical outreach to address needs of the modern world. Have a guess when it started. You got it. Its opening was in Rome on the 11th of October 1962. So as we know, Gematria doesn't allow numbers, so put Vatican II in. And lo and behold, the Vatican II, which is obviously 11, equates to 128, 1 add 2 add 8 equals 11. So the Second Vatican Council started on the 11th. The 2 in Roman numerals looks like 11. You just can't make it this up, can you? So when we think of the Vatican, obviously the papal keys, the holy keys, the holy see keys come to mind. They do, don't they? The silver and the gold, the heavenly keys. Well, there's gold represents spiritual power, the silver, the worldly keys, and obviously the red string or rope or the cord is the papal bloodlines. We all know this. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to put AU, AG, which are gold and silver, the periodic table numbers and letters. I'll put that into Gematria, see what I get. And I couldn't believe it, I was shocked. 209, 2 add 9 equals 11. So silver and gold together equate to 11. Now look at these purple keys here. I've done it in black so it's a lot easier to follow. What number do they look like? Well, for me, each key represents 1. So 2 keys together represent, yes, you got it, 11. Just blown my mind. And a few weeks ago in the video, I was showing you how 11 together, if you move them around, represent the cross. Surely it can't be a coincidence that all these numbers, number 11, equate to Janus, the Vatican, and everything I'm talking about. I'm just shocked, guys. It's like, wow. What I'm going to show you now just adds to the mystery and the intrigue for me. It's crazy. So you heard me talking about this briefly in the last clip.
Urbs Eterna.
Urbs Eterna. And basically it means
Eternal City.
Eternal City. That is another name for Rome, the Eternal City. So obviously I'm talking about how the crown is to keep going under a different name, which is Rome. But obviously when the so-called got destroyed, some people believe it didn't exist, and people are entitled to their opinion. But Rome keep going. You can call it from Mesopotamia. You can call, so it comes under many, many, many names. But basically, it's a crown. It's what's behind it, and this is why I'm showing you all this. So it's Eternal City, Urbs Eterna, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to anagram Urbs Eterna. I'm going to anagram that.
Urbs Eterna.
Right, and look what I get. So you can see anagram to solve, Urbs Eterna. And you get 3 answers. But that one just blew me away. Subterranean is an anagram for the Eternal City. And just for people who do not know,
Subterranean.
Subterranean. Existing, occurring, or done under the Earth's surface. So I'm talking about the hiding behind a name, which they are. We've shown you all this. Agenda 21, the crown, everything, the hiding. And then underneath, secret, concealed. And then obviously the description is the subterranean world of the behind the scenes. And they've just used television power brokers. So I'm talking about a secret, concealed, hidden organisation known as the crown, hiding behind UN, United Nations, whatever. You can call them different things, but we know them as the Crown Corporation. And it comes from Rome, and the Latin word for Rome, Urbs Eterna, meaning the Eternal City. Tell me that is not a wow, because, they hide stuff in words, and that to me says a lot. It's a secret hidden underneath, and I'm talking about the hidden part of Rome, the Crown Corporation. Just wow. And just because I've been talking about the Eternal City,
Eternal.
I just thought I'd show people basically what they're saying. That means lasting or existing forever without end, and or the truth or the value, or question the truth, whatever they believe Rome was, or the crown behind it is, their values. They want to keep that going forever. Remember, all roads lead to Rome is a saying that I was brought up with. Now you see more and more of this. It's the Agenda 21. Their values just want to last forever, so they're trying to bring them all in. So I just thought I'd share this little bit on Eternal with you. So, I've just been talking about the Eternal City, Urbs Eterna, and here's an aerial shot of the Vatican. And do you see what I see? Most of you will go, yeah, I can see it straight away. But obviously people have not researched different things. So I'll give you a few seconds and I'll highlight it for you. And what you'll see is this. The Eternal City, and obviously the complex, the Vatican, etc., makes up a key. I know it's badly drawn, but what do you want me to do? So this is all intriguing me now. Urbs Eterna, the Eternal City, the Vatican. Now when you type in Eternal City, you'll get a highlight of another place that's called Eternal City. So I wanted to have a quick look at this. So obviously there's another place called Eternal City, and it's in Japan. And to be more specific, it's called Kyoto, or Kyoto. Now this is the cultural capital of Japan too, so it's significant. Now the city of Kyoto, Japan, specifically the historical Heian-kyo, dubbed Yorozu no Maya, the Eternal City. So the old one, the ancient, was called the Eternal City. And just look at it. Do you see what I see? Here is a model of the historical Heian-kyo, and it looks like a circuit board. It's crazy, isn't it, how it's set up? And you'll just see a few pictures that I've clumped together to actually show you just how circuit body it is. But it gets worse, or good, whatever you look at it. Here is a map, an old map of Kyo, and it looks like a blueprint for a circuit board. It's crazy, isn't it? It's just so like in your face. But you might think, well, why is he showing me circuit boards and Kyoto? What's that got to do with the Eternal City and the Vatican? Well, here it is. This is a kofun, and it's a burial mound. You have them all over Japan, sorry, but just have a look at it. So this is what's left, and it's all megalith stones. And you might be thinking, yeah, it's cool, Paul, but what's it got to do with the Vatican, the key, and the Eternal City? So remember, this place was known as the Eternal City, and you're seeing what's left of a kofun. But this is the shape it made. Now you see it, don't you? Yep, it's a key. So the two places is called the Eternal City. Both. One is a key and the other is a keyhole, you could say. Now, like I said, Japan has a lot of them, and here's a few that I've just, quickly got. So it's intriguing me, this. And we're talking about two places called Eternal City. One is a key and one is a keyhole, and these are all over Japan. So it's you might say, well, yeah, Paul, it's all over Japan, but it's still a wow, isn't it, guys? I mean, that is the cultural capital of Japan, Kyoto, so it's significant, but there's more. And this is when it all starts connecting together, and you're like, no way. And like I said, there may be some coincidences. And this is Tenryujai Temple, otherwise known as, and again, this is a temple in Kyoto, and it's known as the Great Temple of the Heavenly Dragon. Dragon, isn't the Vatican the divine serpent? Very, very, very similar. Both a key and a keyhole. And here's just a few pictures of the temple. It's just mind-blowing, isn't it, when you put these connections to it. Two places called the Eternal City. One is a key, one is a keyhole. Is there anything to it? Is it portals? Who knows? But guys, it's just wow, isn't it? It is for me personally. That doesn't say much of my character, but I get excited by researching, as you guys well know. Now this is the location as well. Kyoto is home to the Shutendoji, one of Japan's most famous demons. Look at it. What does it look like? So again, more serpent, dragon, lynx. And to round this little bit off, and so why is he talking about Japan? What is not far from Kyoto? And it's obviously, there's two. Obviously, supposedly opposite sides of the planet. You have the Bermuda Triangle, and you have the what? The Dragon Triangle. Could be something in it that there is a key, a keyhole, and a Dragon Triangle. It's not too far, right, guys? So we've seen images of these banded round for years. The pine cone. In regard to, yep, it represents the pineal gland. The Eye of Horus, the Wadjet, the Eye of Wadjet, and so many things like this. But as you can see at the bottom view, the Vatican has a huge pine cone, flanked by two peacocks. So we've all seen these images over the years, haven't we? Yes, pine cone. The Vatican's got the pineal gland in the courtyard, the Vatican pine cone courtyard. Well, and we also find and see people talking about we have to activate our pineal gland. It's true, don't we? Our third eye. Well, what connects all this, what you're talking about, is none other than Janus. Janus. As you can read here, in occultism, the pineal gland is regarded as a link between the objective and the subjective states of consciousness, or in exoteric terminology, the visible and visible worlds of nature. In the religions of the Latins, it was therefore referred to as Janus, the two-faced god and keeper of the gates of sanctuary. This divinity was archetype or antitype of Saint Peter, who succeeded him as the warder of the heavenly portals and who carries the two keys of office, one to the golden mystery of the spirit and the other to the silver mystery of the body. So you can see the significance of pine cones and the pineal gland. And Janus is the occult name for it. That just blows my mind every time I see that, because we see a lot of people talking about that, don't we? And it's Janus. Look at the Pinecone Courtyard. An extension to the Vatican Library was dug beneath the Pinecone Courtyard, inaugurated by John Paul II. Oh, looks like 11. It is a veritable anti-nuclear bunker built entirely in reinforced concrete on 2 floors. 2, 1 and 1 is 11. Altogether, the extension measures 31,000 square metres and contains no fewer than 43 kilometres of shelves. Let's add them 2 last numbers up. 3 add 1 for 31,000 is 4. Add 4 is 8. And the 3 is 11. So even the statistics of the new Pinecone Courtyard reinforced Vatican Library add up to 11, and it's on 2 floors. It's that plain, and it's in your face. So the pineal gland is Janus, and his number is 11. So is it a coincidence that the pineal gland has 11 letters? Let that sink in. So obviously in the Vatican we have the Pinecone. Now you know the significance of that now in regard to Janus. Obviously there's 2 peacocks there too. But Rome is split into districts, and at the heart of Rome is the Pinecone. There is actually a district called Pigna Rione, the Pinecone district. And it's funny how it's number 9, the district, and the mirror of that is at 11. It just wants to get everywhere, doesn't it? And here's a map showing you the Pigna district, right at the heart of Rome. And there is the crest. So it's just interesting, isn't it? Obviously the link with Pinecone and the pineal, but also at the heart of the Pigna district is this. So within the heart of Rome, the Pinecone is the Pantheon. A temple for the gods of gods. That's what it was made for. Designed to replicate the Pinecone, the pineal and consciousness. And originally the Pantheon had copper plates outside, so originally it did look like a pine cone, the same colour. So that's an intriguing bit, but also it represents something else too. You've heard me mention it a long time ago. It's the Godhead. It's the circumpunct, and in ancient times, when you see the symbol of the circle with a dot in it, it's called the Godhead. It represents the portal of creation, the portal of light, the infinite tunnel, and a source in which all aspects of. So as you can see, the circle was a symbolic and literal interpretation of the infinite all. Who's the god of ports? Who's the god of doorways, portals, etc., etc. You can see my points here. In Masonic, they have the 2 St. Johns and also the circumpunct with the 11. So you can see how significant the circumpunct is. It's the rabbit hole itself. It's knowledge. It's what connects us. Now, take a look at the Pantheon from above. And we have a nice image here. Let's put the circumpunct over the top. And there you have it, guys. From above, the Godhead. Now, you remember the district sign? Rione, number 9, Pigna, the Pigna Rione district. It even has it on there, and we never noticed. And as you can see, I'll just put it down there and you can see. So it's intriguing, this, and it's mind-blowing. That's just me personally. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. This is Tiber Island. It's not too far from Vatican. It's on obviously the Tiber. There's different stories of how this became. One is that it was just silt, sedimentary silt, and they dumped rubbish on it, etc., etc., and it became an island, and they built on it. Another one is that Asclepius came for a pandemic. He answered a call, came up on his ship on the Tiber. The snake off his staff jumped off. Where it hit the water, they built an island in his honour. The other folklore story is that obviously Janus is also known as Noah, and where he docked or hit aground in his ship, they made an island to him. And I'll show you a little bit of evidence for both, which is intriguing, and it's just mind blowing. If you actually want to watch the long video, please go to Odyssey under the Black Sheep Researcher. Look for the video called The Island of the Gods. It could go into it in more detail, and it'll show you a lot more that I'm included in this. Right, guys, thank you. I'm sorry this is a bit fuzzy, but I had to blow it up so you could actually just see what I was talking about. So this talks about how Noah's Ark in the Old Testament, the ship on ancient coins of Janus, was held by Christians to foreshadow the symbolic ship of the Christian church. And Janus, Noah's choice to settle opposite Rome on the left bank of the Tiber, prefigured St. Peter's associated with the Vatican. Now I'll put an image of Google Maps and I'll show you, and I'll highlight the Vatican. And I'll highlight, you can just about see it at the bottom, Tiber Island. And obviously they're quite close. They're not like bang on opposite, but you can see my point. Whereas I believe it's obviously for this. And obviously I'll carry on now. And it's talking about because Janus was the first Pontifex Maximus. He was also in effect the first Pope. And Peter is his successor. Peter's keys preserve Janus' Noah's ancient association with doors. So you can see why I'm leaning towards this. Because obviously people have been talking about how Janus as Noah parked his ship near the Vatican, and lo and behold we have a Tiber Island. Right, guys? And also I'll just read out this little snippet about Noah, Italy and the Sea Peoples. In his Original della Lingua Fiorentina, originally published in 1549, Pier Francesco Giambolari makes an astonishing claim that the language of Dante takes its origin from Hebrew, brought to Italy by Noah, the inventor of wine, who is known as Janus, settled and died there. So that was just a little snippet I wanted to show you to go with the other snippet, just to put my claim that this is where Noah, aka Janus' ship stood. So here's Tiber Island. It's supported, well, you can get across by using the two most ancient bridges in Rome, the Ponte Cestio and the Ponte Fabricio. But you can just see some of the remnants of how it was actually designed to look like a ship in the rock. And this is where you can actually see the rod of Asclepius in images. I'll zoom in right now for you so you can actually see. And there you go. And here's some old engraving images and models of how it would have looked. And you can quite see it's intriguing and fascinating how it was actually built like a ship. And obviously those two myth laws about Janus and also Asclepius. Now here's the two bridges. I think this is one of the old ones that was destroyed too. But obviously the two other bridges that are still there I've just mentioned. And what's intriguing is these two old bridges that go to the island. One has a certain someone that we've become to know through my research. Yep, they have Janus. One of the oldest Janus statues in Rome is on the island bridge. Now, is there something in that? I think there is, but I'll leave that up to you. Ovidus, a Roman poet, called May mensis Maevis, which is derived from Maores, meaning the ancestors. So these ancestors are called Lemures, spirits of the dead, who died young, a violent death, or without funeral rites. So the paterfamilias, the father of the family, would do a ritual, and this is the ritual. So the head of the household would, in the middle of the night, I'll put good guesses on that it would be in the witching hour, but obviously there's no facts for this. In the middle of the night, perform a ritual to appease and banish the dead ancestors. He would walk barefoot, or shoes without no knots. Knots sounds like speed in water, knots. And he would walk around. He would then gesture using the mano fico, which is a fig hand, and I'll show some examples in this now. And it was used against the evil eye, but modern society is using it now as a fuck you sign. So after washing his hands with spring water, he would then avert his head or his face while throwing black beans. At this time he would utter the following charm or the chant 9 times. I cast these beams, and by doing so I redeem my family and myself and my family. He then washes his hands again. He then strikes some bronze pans. Once the spirits have collected their offerings, which are the black beans, it is time to ask them to leave. This is done by saying, "Spirits of the ancestors, get out," and he does this 9 times. Then he would turn his head back around and the ritual is completed. So here's the wow bit for me, the 33. Now, like I always say, it's up to your interpretation, your perspective. You might not see this, you might not agree with it, and that's cool, because this is just what it's all about. But look at the dates. You have 9, you have 11 and 13. That adds to 33. Tell me that's not in your face. And we're talking about this festival. You're seeing the connections now with this festival all around the world. Its implications to Lemuria, and people say that is where we all came from. So if you wanted to make 33 a significant number in Freemasonry, this is what you would do. 9, 11 and 33. That's the festival date in Rome. 9, as you've seen from a previous video, is human immortality. 11 is the pillars, the Freemasonry pillars, Jachin and Boaz, but it's also a gateway. It's Janus's favourite number. It's 11. And 13, Friday the 13th, when so-called all the Templars got executed. Now can you see my point is 33 becomes such a number. First 2 letters, 9/11. We know what happened then. And the day they allowed the skies back open so the planes could fly was the 13th. 9, 11 and 13. Is that a coincidence? I'll leave that up to you. I believe I found what is behind the number 21. Obviously, Agenda 21, the 30. I believe I found what is 21, and it's absolutely blew my mind. I've talked so far how all roads lead to Rome. I've showed the UN, NATO, all I have the crown. The crown corporation is behind Rome. All roads lead to Rome. Here you can see the crown, especially the Senate and the people logo with the eagle on, and they'll tell you Agenda 21, it's all about the 21st century, and I'll put something on the screen for that. But remember, it's 21. Numbers mean something, so they've put the numbers in the title for something. And yes, I've talked about it's a timeline, it's a period, it's a transition from 21 to 30, but something special to them happened on the 21st, and now I'm going to reveal what it actually is. So here we have it, guys. What's behind all this? The crown. I've showed all the Rome. Now we know Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus. Romulus killed Remus, and on the side he created Rome. And the accepted date, the founding of Rome, was on April the 21st. And guys, let's ignore this. This is just Romulus shaking hands with Janus. We'll ignore that. But guys, the founding of Rome, I'm talking about all roads lead to Rome, and the founding of Rome is 21st of April. How much of a wow is that now, knowing what I've just gone through, showing the Roman crown, Novell, everything so far, and the founding of that place I've linked it to, all roads lead to Rome, is on the 21st of April. That to me is just wow. I'll show you this old article. It's by the Palestine Post, and it's showing you the partition approved by the United Nations. Remember the Roman wreath, the crown, and it was partitioned in 1947, and that's when it was established as a Jewish state. 1947 equates to, yes, you got it, 21. 21 is the birthday founding of Rome, and the god and festival that day was Pales. But just look at the voting now. 2/3, 33 voted yes, 13 no, 10 abstained. And as you know, the plan of the partition was done in 1947. I said it's 21, as you know, and here is just a quick map showing you that. But guys, not only is that a wow being a 21 on the Rome's founding day, but Palestine is named after Pales. Yeah, you got it. Palestine is named after Pales, the Roman goddess and god. Right guys, I'm showing this because this one of the things that's wowed me. I'm not going to read it all out because it's talking about different things in general, but it's talking about here the land of Pales, an overview of ancient Palestine, and introduction and all that. But I just wanted to get to the name to show you. So the name Palestine is thought to derive from either the word plesheth, meaning root palash, and edible concoction carried by migratory tribes which came to symbolize nomadic peoples, or as a Greek designation for the nomadic Philistines. But the author Tom Robbins has suggested the term Palestine originates from the ancient androgynous god Pales, who was worshipped in the region of Canaan. If this is so, then Palestine means land of Pales. Isn't that a wow if it's the case? Because he does say there's no proof of this. But, you know, when I saw this, I went, wow. Because we know about this region, and this is associated with the Pales, the founding of Rome. It is wow. It has established that there was an androgynous deity named Pales, referred to so in text as both a god and goddess, who was recognised by the Romans as the patron deity of shepherds and sheep, and whose festival was celebrated on the 21st of April and the 7th of July in Rome, in the area of Palatine Hill. Palestine. Not much, is it? There is, however, no documentation from ancient times linking this deity to the region of Palestine, apart from being worshipped in that area. The name derives from the Greek for the land of the Philistines. That is what is accepted, you know, what people are talking about. So I just thought that was interesting that other people are talking about Palestine being named land of the Pales from the androgynous Roman deity named Pales. I thought that was too much not to show you guys. Remember in my Babel Effect video, the Pope changed the calendar and we lost 11 days out of September. I think it was in 1752. 11 days, I know. But before that, again, another Roman emperor, I think it was Numa Pompilius, credited with adding January at the beginning and February at the end of the calendar. So he was a guy originally, and that was in 452 BC. That's another 11. 4 add 5 add 2 equals 11. Come on guys, that's twice they've changed the calendar, and both times the numbers have been included 11. There's got to be something in that. Well, we know it's Janus's number. All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, they call me the black sheep.
Have you heard of the doorway effect? Nope, me either. Well, obviously he did, but you know what I mean. But like me, I guarantee you have been affected. So, what is it? Have you ever walked through a door and forgot basically what you was going to do? If the answer is yes, that's the doorway effect. Some might be thinking, come off it, Paul, this ain't true. But psychologists believe that walking through a door and entering another room create what's known as a mental blockage in the brain, meaning that walking through open doors basically resets the memory to make room for a new episode to emerge. It's crazy, isn't it? And this is generally referred to as the doorway effect. I mean, this guy looks like he's had a few too many shocks, but this is Professor Gabriel Radvansky, psychologist from Notre Dame, wherever you come from. And Gabriel Radvansky suggests that passing through doorways is basically the cause of these memory lapses. Entering or exiting through a doorway serves as an event boundary in the mind, which separates episodes of activity and files them basically away. Recalling the decision or activity that was made in a different room is difficult because it has been compartmentalized. Now, you're all watching, and you're watching this and you're thinking, come on, when is he going to mention Janus or that number 11? And I hate to, let you guys down. And here you go. Remember, Janus is the number 11, represents the doorway. Funny that, isn't it? Considering doorway equals 11 too. Do you know what I mean? And what are we talking about in this video? Well, I'm going to be talking about the doorway effect. Nah, doorway effect surely can't add to 11. But wait, it has. No coincidence though, guys. So we've all done this. I've just found an example in picture form to show you guys. We've gone in a room, we've said, I need my pen or your phone or something, and you've left it in another room. You then turn around, you've walked out, you've gone into the other room, you're like, what was I doing again? Now, I just found it intriguing because, as you know, I'm a heavily researching into Janus, and obviously he is the threshold god, the god in regard to doorways from a Roman perspective. Obviously, the entity behind that has gone through the eons. Now, what's interesting me in this, is it just internal doors? Is it external doors? And you can obviously see a little picture here of the doorways, of different types of doorways, and obviously, is it just your internal doors? Now, what's intrigued me is, what if I just come off researching, and I didn't plan this way, but it's actually fell beautiful into it. Are we just talking about the main door of the house? But from the description of the experiments, it's just mainly doors. So that's why I was just asking that to myself. But we have arches, and we have triumphal arches. These are doorways on a bigger, more mass scale. Do these have a bigger effect, whatever they do? Because I've talked about the logic gates, and I'm going to show you something, etymology of weird I found on that. But from this theory of the doorway effect, of affecting your memories, obviously I did the video on the circuit board. I briefly talked about the arches, the logic gate system, the Boolean, all adding up to 11. Now we have things like vampires not being able to enter the home without permission. We have the Passover with the spirit marked the doors with the blood, and it represented the 11 on the post. We even have a quote in John, which is another derivative of Janus, saying, I am the door. Well, what does that point to? So you can see me intriguing of why I wanted to do this follow-up to the last video I've just done and use an actual physical scientific principle of an experiment stating that, we lose memories going through doors. What else are we losing? And this is what I'm going to try and get at in this video. So before I go off on a tangent, I wanted to just formulate an idea on how arches, doorways could wipe memory. Now, obviously I showed you this last week, horseshoe magnet, in regard to arches and the electromagnetism. Well, what if the doorways, the arches, acted like a neodymium magnet and wiping our memories, our short-term memories? It's just an idea. I know these magnets can actually wipe credit card things and VHS, and they're not powerful enough to do hard drives, but obviously if there's a different type of force and how our actually brain works, maybe that the magnetic flow of these arches slightly disrupts the memories for us, basically forming a path between A to B, and this disrupts it. So we end up like Rick here. I feel like my brain short circulating. It's just an idea. So I've just talked about how could it be like an electromagnetic field created by the arch, and that wipes our short-term memory. That basically you walk through the door with a thought because that's the last thought in your head. The field generated by the arch, by this circuit realm, wipes that memory. So you go into the next room and you're like, what was I just thinking again? And then you go back into the room and you remember because the memory is stored. And I've talked about this many times in a different way. Now I want to look at it another way. Now obviously I talked about logic gates in my last video. I just want to share with you the etymology of that and significance of what I found. So logic, a branch of philosophy that treats the forms of thinking. See, it's on about your thinking, your thoughts, the science of distinction of true from false reasoning. From Old French, logique, from Latin ars or logica or logic, from Greek he, logique techni. Right, and it's the reasoning, the art, from fem or logicus, pertaining to speaking or reasoning. But this is where it gets interesting. Also, or pertaining to speech, from logos. Now, as you know, logos means reason, idea or word, but also it is tied to God and Jesus. Now we're talking about doorways and arches. We've talked about how Janus is the threshold god, the doors of gateways, doorways, portals. Now we're talking about linking logic gates to logos, and I'm going to show you some ideas on that just after this, but that just blew me away. Now you can see the word, the thought, and how were we created? The word of God, frequency. Obviously frequency from the word, the spell, can also create magnetism, and that's what I'm just talking about briefly before. Could the spell, the word of God, the God of the doors, be just trying to communicate and we're just losing that last thought? It's just an idea. I'm just thinking out loud to you guys. And then it says formally also logic, sometimes formally plural as in ethics, but this is not usual, meaning logical argumentation. Contemptuous logic chopper, sophist, person who uses subtle distinctions in an argument. So I'm going to read out logos now. Obviously a lot of you will know more than me, but that just blew me away about logos. Obviously logos too, another symbolism, and I've done that in various videos in regard to curses and sigils. Right guys, so the reason I wanted to include this bit in this video in regard to logos is because if you think about it, I've talked about like the doorway effect in regard to wiping our memory, or the short-term memory, not complete memory. Whether you believe this to be true or not is totally up to you. I've had it happen to me. What is behind it? Can you actually tie it down to something? It just seems fascinating that even mainstream science are now talking about doorways in this way. And we have all this, not just etymology, myth lore, folklore regarding doorways, and obviously the link and research that I do on it, and it's just what I just think differently, and some of you guys understand that and actually appreciate just a different thought on what you see, you know, day in day out on YouTube land and things like this. So logic comes from, or logos, so they're both intermittent, interwoven in the sense of etymology sense, as I've just read out. And these are just a few thoughts on it that I've found. I just wanted to find something, just show you a little different thought on it. And it talks about a principle originating in classical Greek, thought which refers to a universal divine reason, immanent in nature yet transcending, again that word trans, all opposition and imperfections in the cosmos and humanity, an eternal and unchanging truth present from the time of creation, available to every individual who seeks it, a unifying and liberating relatory force which reconciles the human with the divine. manifest in the world as an act of God's love in the form of Christ. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Is it the fact that it's short-term memory in regard to the thought that you're having? For instance, I need to get something out of the fridge, I need to go and get something out of the next room. You go up through the archway and it wipes that memory out, because I'm not saying it does it all the time. There might be an external force that I'm not talking to. Am I talking about evil in the sense of evil influencing the archers, using it for their own good, basically manipulating? And I'm going to talk about evil, because obviously I did a video on evil a few months ago, and that was on I think that was the last video on my old channel, and they took that down too. So I'm going to be showing you a clip on that, and it'll all make sense. I just wanted to do it a different way. So obviously, next definition, logos, the longer definition, the Greek word logos, traditionally meaning the word, the thought, the principle or speech, has been used among both philosophers and theologians. In most of its usages, logos is marked by two main distinctions. The first dealing with human reason, the rationality in the human mind, which seeks to attain universal understanding and harmony. The second with universal intelligence, the universal ruling force governing and revealing through the cosmos to humankind, the divine. We're walking through arches, we're forgetting, are we connecting in that brief millisecond to the DC, the source, harmony? And because we're at harmony and we're at, one with ourselves, we forget the rudimental basic things that we were just going about to do. Just an idea, again, throwing that out, at you. No, Paul, no more. So the Greek philosopher Heraclitus appears to be the first to have used the word logos to refer it to a rational divine intelligence, which today is sometimes referred to in scientific discourse as the mind of God. The early Greek philosophical tradition known as Stoicism, which held that every human participant in the universal and divinely ordained community, then used the Logos doctrine as a principle for human law and morality. The Stoics believed that to achieve freedom, happiness and meaning, one should attune one's life to the wisdom of God, will manifest in the second distinction above of Logos. The Christian Church then extended the Stoic idea of the universal community by claiming the universal nature of salvation and the potential for all humans to participate in it. Now this is where it gets funny, and I've mentioned it before in this video and other videos. John is another derivative of the name Janus. So is this just a coincidence? Is this just the evil manipulating and basically, it can't copy it, so it inverts it? So it could be that, but still wow to me, because, and listen, in the New Testament, the phrase word logos of God found in John 1:1. John, 2 1s, 11. So the logos, the logic gates, the arches, the doorways is found in John 1:1. When I saw that, I thought, how can I get this into a video? Because as I'm researching for this doorway effect, talking about doors and etymology and door verses in the Bible, seeing about logos in the logic, and thought, ooh, look up John 1:1. It basically appears first. That to me is a jaw dropper. So, and obviously found in John 1 and elsewhere, shows God's desire and ability to speak to humans. Is it the reality of a godly divine trying to speak to us through arches, holds the power of the voice? Is it Janus trying to speak to us? Or is it the other source, God, the creator? The Christian expression of this communication is evident in the Christ who is the Word became flesh. So we are Word that has become flesh. So is that why it affects us? The spells affect us, the arches affect us, because we are God's Word becoming flesh. We have become flesh. Now, I've talked about it many times in all videos, in the sense of why do they want to hurt us? And I've always said they want to hurt true God, the Creator, and the best way to hurt him is hurting us. And I've always said that, and I stand by it. So in these 3 biblical words, 3 again, like his heads, Christianity points to the possibility of union between the human and the divine. Is the divine, the good divine or the evil divine? AI, in the sense of circuit boards. Janus's oldest name is IA. Invert that, AI. So divine or the personal and the absolute. God's logos, which is Christ represents, acts as a bridge between the human inner spiritual needs and the answer proclaimed by the Christian message. So it's actually talking spiritually now. Is it a spiritual, something spiritual happens to us walking through archways? It's a mind blower, isn't it, when you just look at it this way? And the last bit in this, because it is highly philosophical, the Logos doctrine has caused some of the more orthodox theologians of recent times to claim that it should not be used in theology, while other theologians claim it's absolutely necessary to a doctrine of God, according to the philosopher and the theologian Paul Tillich. He who sacrificed the Logos principle sacrificed the idea of a living God, and he who rejects the application of this principle to Jesus as the Christ rejects the character of Christ. So this guy's just talking about his opinion. In other words, without an understanding of God's love, will, power, and as a living and active force in the world, through the Logos in the Christ and through our participation in the Logos without our reason. So basically, if they're talking about arches and logos and logic in the same frame of mind, could the doorways be a force, an electromagnetic force that, depending on the shape, the actual electric. We talked about what electric means in the video, and it just blew me away. So this is just a different look at it, and I'm just wow, especially when you found out it's John 1:1. Right, guys, thank you. So Logos is tied to the word, right? And remember John 1:1, which blew me away. It was both Janus and his number 11. In the beginning was the word. That, as we know, is Logos. And the word was with God, and the word was God. So whatever the word is God. Now what I found is not only just shocked me to my roots, I'm just like, no way. I can't believe it. So as you know, I like working with words. So I looked for the anagram of word, and the best one I could get was DORW, because it really sounds like door, like a little accent. And people always talk about Idrisil as the tree. Well guys, this will blow you away. The Proto-Indo-European word for oak is DORW, door, and that became the word for a door. So the oak is a doorway between worlds, as it lives between the worlds. Tell me that isn't wow. And as I've shown you in previous videos, Janus is also known as the oak, and I am the door now makes you think, wow. John is Giano, is Janus, and Janus is the god of doorways and is tied to the oak tree. Could you not get any more wow than that? So the word translates anagrams into DORW, door, and that was the old name for the oak tree that got made to be used as what we say now as a door. So I've connected the word of God to the door. Just wow. I'm still wowing, guys. I'm just so excited. I'm like a little kid. Now, you might be thinking we're talking about doors. So why has he got evil on? Well, if people from my old channel, because one of the last videos that I did on Black Sheep Researcher, and it's still up if you want to actually go and look at this video, it's called Evil. I can't remember the full title, but you'll see it. It's on Odyssey. And in that I talk about evil a lot. And what I found fascinating was this, what I'm going to reveal now. So obviously some of you would have seen it. But you look at the word evil. Obviously it's live. the inversion of to live is evil. And I've done a hell of a lot, no pun intended, research into obviously Janus and doorways. Now, if it came to me, and it must be about 4 or 5 months ago I did it, maybe not, I do know what time flies, as the saying goes, but the 4th letter of the Roman alphabet, the Greek delta. Now, what's funny is, obviously, delta, we have the delta variant now, and obviously that's tied to the delta brainwave, and people's been posting that, we've all seen the memes. Now, what's interesting to me is, obviously, the delta comes from the Phoenician and the Hebrew word deleth, or delete, and I'll show you an image for that on the screen. Now, delete, obviously, and the Greek delta, the letter D, the etymology, this is what it's from, and it means doorway. So delete means doorway. So the letter D means, obviously, delta from the Phoenician, and in Hebrew, delete or deleth or deleth. Now, it's spelled delete, D-A-L-E-T-H or D-A-L-E-T, or you might see some spelling it delete in D-E-L-E-T, but to me delete sounds like delete. And we're talking about a video in regard to all phenomenon and folklore, mythlore, and just me what ifing about the effects of doorways. We've had the doorway effect at the beginning, talking about how the memory gets deleted. And the Hebrew word for D is delete. So obviously in the door, the D means actual door. So the actual door, D-O-O-R, the letter D actually means door. So this is what intrigued me, is because when you put the D in front of evil, you get devil. And we've all seen this, the verse or the wording that the devil is knocking at your door. So this is like the inversion we talked about, obviously, type of God. And the same with the devil. Take away the D, it is evil. Put the D back in, it is the devil. The devil knocking at your door. And what's funny is the form of the modern letter in Greek delta is a triangle or a pyramid. The pyramid sounds like the all-seeing eye. Well, we're talking about doorways, aren't we? And what's funny is that the actual Roman numerals is said to be half of C backwards, it states on the etymology. But that was an early form of M. So we have the pyramid, the triangle, delta, delete, the door, and the Roman numerals M. So we have the all-seeing eye, the eye of providence, and we have the letter M. Now we have the Masonic M that you see in so many historical figures and celebrities nowadays doing the M sign with the hand. And I'll show you a picture of that now. So you have the letter D, meaning door, delta, delete. Obviously you have the delta variant, obviously affecting the delta brainwaves, and people were talking about how people are asleep. And we also have an M sign. Now, what's interesting is, in an old video, I theorised this M sign was the, I can't remember it off by hand now, the actual pineal gland, a part of the pineal gland. And I'll show you the image, you can see it on the screen. Now, for me, that represents the M. And the reason that is because the occult name for the pineal is Janus. So you telling me that the pineal gland, the gateway, the doorway, because that's what people talk about, the, you know, operate in the pineal gland, let's, you know, recharge it and all the things that they talk about. But it's a doorway to another realm, reality, or whatever you believe the pineal gland does to your consciousness, to source, and it ties into my DC source and AC source. But the pineal gland's occult name is Janus. What is Janus god of amongst so much? But the main not primordial, primarily he is a god of doorways and gateways. So we have the pineal gland linked to Janus and is a doorway. And we have the letter M, which is attached to it, which is a numeric value of it from Roman numerals.